Pindai mumbanzi kupeimbura tokubigira ichichonu madere mapuno echichokuno azere tokurongedzera imoyenda ndisu kwacho kunorira pene maidini mauye neikoatawawaenda makaachisambira. Welcome to Kanoiwanyayi broadcast. This is Sangwadzi Spiwekachidza Mapfumo, and we welcome you all and thank you very much for following us. I see we already have Rosalinda is there, Cromwell, Katio. I see 4 more people who are following us. Let's give them a few minutes and they'll be with us in no time. But oh my goodness, I am so excited. I know you all are all excited, waiting to hear our next guest, our guest today, who is Denenga. Oh, let's wait a little bit and see how many more people are coming in. Please post it. Let me know where you are following us from. I know the Rosalind is in Zimbabwe. Cromwell is in New Zealand. Yes, Sheila is in London. Hi, Tete, Tapa, Nusangwadzi. Hi, Spiwe. How are you doing? I am doing just fine, as you can see. Come on, everybody. Share with others and let them know we are in studio now so that we'll all be here together and enjoy this. Looking forward to this very interesting segment with Aaron Denenga. Tarisem Kusha, welcome to Kanoiwanyayi. All right. Can you hear us properly? Let me know if we are clear, nice and clear. Aaron, welcome the people who are following us, and then I can introduce you.
Thank you so much. Welcome everyone to the show. Looking forward to what I think is going to be an exciting segment. We've been following the shows for so long, and I'm just excited to interact with everyone and be online and just share my experiences and also maybe hear from you too.
Fantastic. Aaron, you know the story that we have today. I always tell you, Kanoiwanyayi, the whole idea here is that we have ordinary people who are doing extraordinary stuff. Aaron Denenga is an ordinary person. He grew up, I saw him growing up, and now he is doing amazing stuff in tobacco farming in Zimbabwe. I don't even know where to start because this is a young man. When he finished high school, he went to South Africa, went to school. He went to law school, finished law school, and he had a fantastic job. He started his career in law, right? And got a fantastic job again with the United Nations. You would have thought he would just have said, forget everything, I'm doing well. And he was rising star over there. But he came home one time. His father was in garden farming, and there he was. Bang. You know what, when they say nothing is more powerful than an idea which has arrived. And I think that's what happened to Aaron, because really that's not where it was going with your life, with your career, with your expectation. Take us through the whole thing. What happened when you came back and you saw your late father? He was a fantastic businessman, and I knew him myself. What happened?
Sure, Mom. No, thank you so much for that. I think I feel like undeserved introduction. We're just people that just focus on the task at hand and not trying to get any accolades from it. We just focus on the work in front of us, which are lessons that I obviously learned from my dad, who was just all about hard work. And it was a very interesting stage in my life, because at the time I was working for the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, and I was the assistant regional project coordinator. And there came a point in time when they wanted to move me to the headquarters in Vienna. And I think at that time, I'd actually just come home. I'd I was on my way home, and I was going to actually discuss this and just see family. I'd been sent by the United Nations to come to do some work here in Zim, and I got to see my father, and I saw his health was deteriorating. And I'll never forget this. I think I was here from a Wednesday up until Friday. Then I said I'll spend the weekend with the family. I spent the weekend with the family, and on the Monday, I sent in my resignation. And I just knew. I mean, at that time was a crossroads. I was 26 at the time, and I just felt that, I'm enjoying my career in Zimbabwe at the United Nations, but there's a part of me that has always wanted to come home. That was always the plan. That was always the feeling. And after having working abroad, there's just this little calling that you have inside of you. And I felt, and I knew within the hearts of hearts that if I moved to Vienna, that 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 ability to come home was going to disappear with it. So I was like, let me go home. Let me just give it a go for a year. Let me just be with my father and just help him, as he's trying to get back to good health. And then I'll return. I mean, the position will always be open to me. I had the relationships there, and here we are 12 years later, and I'm still on the farms.
It's 12 years, because you were like 28, 29 when you came
Correct.
back, when you came to join your dad. And is
Sure.
that when Grow Global Agriculture Zimbabwe was started, or was it just Denenga Farm? Your
Yeah.
dad was doing agriculture. He was a
Correct.
businessman. He was doing very
He
well as
was.
a spa, yeah. And that's how I knew
Correct.
him as a spa member. But then he went into agriculture, and that time I know a lot of Africans were not really into it. They were trying, but kind of like, tell
Yes.
us how did that go, and how did it go from the time when you came back and joined him?
Yeah, I mean, I must say, I mean, being honest, I mean, I would see the amount of sacrifice at work my father used to go into town, and we were raised in the city. And I would
Mm.
see him leaving at 4 o'clock in the morning and going out to the farm, and I'd be like, "I know, Dad, you go ahead. It's just we're here in town."
Yeah.
And you'd see him come back, and then after some time, he would force us out there. And my dad used to give us hard lessons. I remember the one time when I was still studying in South Africa, we went to the farm together, and he could tell that I didn't have this interest, and I think it was frustrating him that I didn't know what was happening on the farm. And we were driving, and he dropped me. We got to some sign, some place on the farm, and he's like, "Oh yeah, so what do you see?" I was like, "Oh no, it's nice, nice, nice." It was one of the lands pretty far away, and then he got in his car and drove off and just left me out there in the middle of the lands.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those things I didn't even know how to walk back to where the house was. So I had to now try to navigate my way. So I remember seeing some tree line in the distance, and that was the tree line that I knew, like, that's close to the house. If I walk in that general
Mm-hmm.
direction, I'll end up at the house. But what's very inspiring is, as I say, when it comes to sacrifice, is when my father first moved around to the farm or got the piece of land, there was absolutely no development on the land. There was nothing but a bare forest.
How big
And
was it?
it was initially it was 800 hectares, and then half of it got subdivided, or half of it he had to relinquish. So we remained with the other 400, and absolutely nothing on the farm. And he built everything from scratch. I'll never forget the first day we got onto the farm, and he just put in a wooden cabinet and a wooden cabin and one blade toilet. And if you had to come to the farm now, you would not imagine that it's something that's been built over quite a short space of time.
I've got some pictures. I will show those. I will show those. But tell us a little bit more before I start showing these pictures of what it looks like. And when you so you had 800 hectares,
Correct.
and
And then and mhm.
how much did that go? How much into tobacco? Because I'm sure
So
it's a big farm, and there were other things that he was doing, but tobacco. I want to
sure,
concentrate on this tobacco thing because I mean,
sure.
you have done extremely well. You tell us some of those positions you've had. I know twice you won as the best tobacco farmer.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah,
I've
this
been
is
there.
time.
I've also been
Shine,
there.
and this is shine. Shine. Tell us how you got into it, what you've done, and shine. This isn't a moment
Sure.
to shine. You deserve it.
You know, it's always difficult to speak in that way, because I say, like, my father gave me a wonderful platform.
Mhm.
It was an amazing foundation that he set for us to take to the next level, which I think can be any parent's wish. So it's hard for me to give shine on myself without giving shine on him, because I would not have been able to do what I'm doing now if it wasn't for the foundation he had set. So, I mean, I give so much credit to him, and his vision, because he just kept saying, no, my boy, you need to come back. Farming is the future. This is what I think will look after you and your family and generations after you. And it was hard to hear, because, I mean, there I was, had a very successful career in South Africa, but being home now and for the years that it's been there, I understand what he saw, I understand his vision. And at the time, I mean, I've got the interesting thing with tobacco, you've got your records, and we started off as the Denenga Farm, and I see our first year, the amount of tobacco we produce. And if I recall, I think the first year we had almost 4,000 kgs of tobacco, in our first year. And this year now we're set to produce, I think, about 500,000 kgs.
Are you serious?
Correct.
4,000. I know you must have been very excited, because 4,000 sounded like this is it. But now look at where are you exporting?
Correct. Yeah. Well, we are contracted to the Chinese government, so we've got a very good relationship with them, and they've been very helpful in terms of support, in terms of what we need throughout the season, and then we send all our tobacco back to them, and then it's a set off from our arrangement.
Okay, I'm going to have to show some of what the place looks like, the farm looks like now. As you said, it was just a small, let me see. I have them. I have those. I must have those. I'll be disappointed if I can't pull them out. Wow. Oh my goodness, Aaron. This is just unbelievable. I mean, as everybody could see, this is huge. This is not like small scale stuff. And for somebody who started from scratch, that was bush, and now all those things you were responsible. Well, your dad, and then you took over. When did your father pass again?
It was 2015.
2015. So really, you've been on the helm since then.
Correct. Yeah.
That's totally amazing. That's really amazing. Another piece I want to talk to you about. We talked about this earlier on, that you employ a lot of people. Correct. At the farm, right? We saw some of those the workers there, and you have about a total of about 1,200.
Correct.
you told me something which really touched my heart, that you have a vision for the kids at the farm, right? Some were born there, they've grown up there. You provide them with the education and medicals for everybody. Talk
Yes,
about that, because I want you to talk about the vision that you had, because it's very important, because what we know is a lot of those white farmers who were in Zimbabwe, they were people who were born on the farms, then their children uh, worked on the farm, their grandchildren worked on the farm years and years and years. You have a
yes,
new vision. Talk to me about that.
correct. No, thank you for that. It's something that's very dear to us, because if you adopt a model as you historically mentioned, you speak to people that work with us, some of our staff members, and they'll tell you that no, my father was on this farm, my grandfather was on that farm, and we just sat back and said, well, this can't carry on. We can't create generations of people that remain working on farms. And we set up a vision, and it's a goal and it's our target that I truly pray we achieve, that anyone born on any of the farms that we operate on should not work on the farm. I'll see that as almost as a failure, because we haven't done anything to change a generation. It's a big task on us, because yes, we do need people to work with us on the farms. But number one, it's also a challenge for us to become more technologically advanced, and allow people to become educated. And then at the same time, there are those people that may have missed the opportunities. We can take those on, but then we know that the generation after them, we hope, will be the ones that will look after them, because their lives have changed by being employed with us. So that is a task that we do not take lightly. We work very hard for our staff well-being,
Yeah.
and more and more, I know we can definitely always improve. But as a family, we are very focused on changing lives for people that work with us.
That's amazing. I saw something on Facebook this week. A friend of yours, I think he's a farmer as well. And I think
Correct.
they pretty much have the same model. And they took I don't know how many kids they were to the,
They took their grade ones and twos.
yes, who are on the farm, took them to the
Correct.
airport, got into the airplane. There's no way they could have ever imagined themselves as an airplane. But
That's
that
very true.
inspires people. It's small things like that, to
Hmm.
me, that's the beauty of ordinary people doing extraordinary stuff, because just that opportunity, it's huge for a child who was born and growing up on a farm, on these farms.
Correct.
And we all know what it's like in Zimbabwe, the farms, what it looked like, people growing up in farms. And really, that opportunity, just that little window that is open, could change
That's
somebody's
it.
life forever.
That's,
Forever.
you couldn't be more right. I think it's also the lack of exposure, because if you can't dream outside of what you know, then what more are you dreaming? And you have to try expose people to as much as
Mhm.
possible. And I think exposure is also part of the opportunity, because if you don't have that exposure, you don't know what opportunity you can try seek. So give people exposure and
you
do
you
as much
can't
as you
dream
can.
you can't dream of what you have never seen.
That's so true,
You really
and I couldn't
cannot. I
agree with
mean,
you
you
more.
can only do so if you have seen something. You might not be in it, but that is just so amazing. That's totally amazing. That me really impressed. And so, do you have a clinic at the farm?
Yes, we do, and we also support the local clinic as much as we can.
Mhm.
And we've also set up a nursery, on the farm itself.
Nursery
And
for the
again,
workers.
correct, correct.
Mhm.
So when some are going to staff, there are staff employed that are there
Mhm.
just to look after the children as they're at work. Because I mean, the situation, most parents are there, and then obviously then we provide a lot of all the feed for the children whilst they're at nursery also. It's just these things. I think it's one of those things where I think we also need to challenge ourselves, because we always think that it's a great task to have a charity, but you don't have to have a charity. You can just be
Mhm.
charitable.
Mhm. That's
And
true.
I think it's almost it's a responsibility for all of us just to look into our immediate circle and do the little you can. And it's, I mean, this, because now we pay for all the children on the farms that we're on, all their school fees. If anyone is to fall sick, we look after all the medical bills, because we just looked at it and said, listen, we have to be able to afford this, and
Mhm.
as a business, it doesn't make sense if we don't do this for our people, because
Mhm.
we know how much they earn. So let's do what we can. And we also provide a grocery pack for all our staff every
Mhm.
month. And so just to subsidize and just to make their lives easier. But as much as also, I mean, there is the business side of it. And
Yeah,
you look at it and say, listen, I would love to pay everyone thousands of dollars, but then the business would not exist. So the
sure.
only way that we can make a change is by looking after the generation after them and get those children into better schools, give them the opportunities for they themselves are not going to be in the same situation as their parents. So that's how we view it. And I think that's for now, that's the formula we have to take. If we pay everyone what
Mhm.
would love to pay everyone, then there would be no more business. So the
Well,
best thing is
but
to look after the next generation.
yes, and most parents, anyway, their vision, including your father and my father, what they want is to see their children do better. They're struggling, they're working on the farm, but surely not a single one of them would want to see their child doing the same thing as
Correct.
what they're doing.
Correct.
They want a better future, and it's good when you invest in the future of these children, because that's exactly what they want. If you had money, you would
100%.
give them, everybody would get much more money. But if you
That's
are,
exactly it.
yeah, if they're managing, then kudos to
No,
you.
I would love for one of the children to be the one that I walk into a bank and I'm the one applying for a loan from.
Yeah.
That's what we would love to see,
Hmm.
and they're not necessarily everyone on the farm. So I would, I'm an advocate for that, and I hope that is the future we see.
I think so. Talk to me about pecan nuts, because you sent me a picture of you and your mom. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Talk to me about the pecan nuts, because that's amazing. Because your farm, we're talking about the tobacco, and you're exporting tobacco, and we sold the tobacco. Picture of the farm, what you're doing over there, but that's not what the only thing you're doing. You are including other things.
Correct. No, the Pecan Nuts is a project we ventured into about 5 years ago. And it's again, it's just that the process of just breaking what is traditionally done.
Mhm.
And the traditional thing is once a farmer has a reasonable season, the first thing you do is you go buy cattle,
Mhm.
and we've got our cattle, and we actually had a bit of a difficult season a few years. I think it was about 6 years ago. We had a severe drought, and we lost some cattle just because there just wasn't enough grazing.
Mhm.
And then I just started looking and saying, okay, we've got these cattle, but it's not really giving us any return. There has to be another way to patiently invest. And that's when we just ventured or did some research, and then we realized that pecan nuts work very well in our area. So a neighbor of mine and I decided to both start doing these pecan nuts together. And we were planting, if I recall, the first year we planted about 500 trees, if I can't remember. It was about 500 trees we planted the first year. And then we've now got up to 3,000 trees. And it's a very long-term patient project.
Mhm.
Um, one, too, that we had to build a dam to support at the same time.
Mhm.
And but we're very excited about it. We're only on year 5, but we know that the future of what this crop will be able to do for us,
Mhm.
something of a patient investment and not as intense as the tobacco that we do. I can't wait for it.
Because what you do is, when you plant them, they just grow, right?
Correct.
you, do,
Well, I
you
mean,
don't need to do much, is it?
no, no, definitely. I mean, the one big requirement they have is water.
Mm-hmm.
We that was one of the biggest learning curves. The reality is, even if you don't look after them as we are doing so in a very strong commercial manner, they can still give you return.
Yeah.
But for us, we're literally trying to do it as a very strong business form on its own self.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, a tree when they come to peak, where each tree will require 500 liters of water per day, each tree. So you can
Per
imagine now we've
day.
got 3 per day. So you
But
can
you
imagine,
also have you've got a dam, that huge dam
correct,
that you put at the farm, and
correct.
talk about the dam and the pecan nuts and how that's working.
Yes. Yes, well, I mean, that's it was something that we had to expand upon because we realized that without the water
Mm-hmm.
that we had, we won't be able to. And I mean, the dam actually came out of a crisis, and so we did have a very small dam on the farm. And I kept telling myself, we need to extend this dam. We need to extend this dam. I'll do it 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes you're forced because suddenly there was a flash flood that came out of nowhere,
That's
and
right.
took that dam away. So now we had no water on the farm at all. But then I had no option, and I to this day I actually don't even know how I built that dam because I've looked at the financials and the numbers, and I don't know where that money came from. But we just said, well, I was like, I have no option. I have to build a dam,
You mean
and
the existing dam was swept away when you had the flash floods?
correct,
So that left you with nothing, right?
correct.
Yeah.
So
How
we
big is
had
it?
no. It's quite. I think the dam in its size is about, if I'm correct, 20 hectares in size. So
And
that's
the
the
capacity?
land space.
Mhm.
Sorry.
The
So it's
capacity.
so it's 480 megaliters. I think that translates to, if it's 40 million or 4 million. I always work in megaliters, so I just know
Yeah.
it's 487 megaliters of water.
I know that it will mean anything to me because but because I've seen the
I wish I
pictures.
could translate. I wish I could translate, but I can't. But I don't know what that is. If someone
Wow.
online has got Google, please quickly Google for us what 487 megaliters is in
But that's
terms of
huge.
liters.
That is huge.
Correct.
And
Correct.
you get enough from there, right? You get enough water.
Correct. We are hoping to build another dam. We're thinking this year we'd like to build another dam on the farm just to increase our capacity again for more water because water is life.
Yeah.
And we've seen recently with how the global weather has become very
Mhm.
unpredictable. The more water you can store, the longer you can
Mhm.
survive in the form of agriculture.
Do you share the dam with any your neighbors, or
No,
is that's
no,
just
that
for
is
you?
it's 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 luckily placed right in the center of the farm. And
Whoa.
it's where I had my wedding with my wife also. So we built a lovely little platform there,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that platform again came out of a disaster where we're like, oh, it would be lovely if we had a platform in the middle of the dam. And when we were building the dam,
Yeah.
we were racing with the rains, and so every dam has got a spillway.
Mm-hmm.
And because our funding was coming little by little and we were trying to use of our own resources, it was difficult to complete the project as quickly as we'd like to.
Mm-hmm.
The spillway did not finish in time by the time the rains came. So the spillway got washed away when we built the dam. And we were very fortunate that the company we're working with I remember I got the report at 4 o'clock in the morning. I went out to see the site, and the guys, the security that was manning that area, got me on the radio, and he said, "You need to come out here." And I was like, "Oh, what's the problem?" He's like, "You know what? I can't tell you. You just have to come see for yourself."
That's how
And
bad it is.
they were afraid to tell me over the radio what
Yeah.
exactly had happened, knowing the amount of work that had gone in. And when we got there, the spillway had been taken away. So I sent a picture at 5 o'clock in the morning, and the company that I was working with had sent equipment and machinery to repair that by 9 o'clock that morning. So
Really?
it was unbelievable support. They didn't talk about any charge and said, listen, we just need to get this sorted so we can capture as much water as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And we got it back up again. And that's when we decided to build this platform in the middle of the dam that floats. So that is where we had our wedding last year.
That is so beautiful. That is so beautiful. Aaron, honestly, I don't even know what can you tell other people. I know there are lots of people who are in the diaspora who are afraid to come, afraid to start. And last week I had a lady who was living in San Diego, and she was doing farming. She had 4 hectares, and
Mhm,
she and her husband, they left their back in Bulawayo and farming. When I spoke to her and asked, weren't you worried coming back? She said, no, this is it.
mhm,
What can you say? What can you tell other people who might have an inkling of wanting to go into farming, but kind of doubt themselves? Obviously, just like you yourself, you're not quite, sure you do it, but your dad was there, so it kind of helped you. What would you say to people?
mhm. Well, I look at it in two fronts. I believe agriculture is the future. And note that I use the word agriculture, not necessarily only farming, because farming has got many aspects. I think the one mistake or something we can improve on, particularly as Zimbabweans, is we have a copycat syndrome. So if I am farming tomatoes and I'm doing well in tomatoes, my neighbor also wants to farm tomatoes. And then my cousin that's in the diaspora wants to invest in tomatoes. Whilst we got to look at the whole chain, because whilst I'm selling those tomatoes, I need some packaging, I need some logistics, I need, some fertilizer, I need some chemicals. Let's look at the whole chain so you can actually be involved in agriculture without only being a farmer. That's the one first point that I like to try express to people, because if we're all farming, who's the one that's we're selling our produce to, and who's looking after our produce in the city, who's doing our packaging? So we have to look at the wider family of what agriculture is and realize that if we're supporting each other, I think it'll be fantastic, because if all my brothers are on the farm with me, why doesn't one of my brothers start a logistics company and he does the logistics, and I pay him just as much as I'd pay
Yeah.
anybody else? And then my other brother, he does the packaging, and I'll pay him just as much as I'll pay any other company. And that way, then we can all grow, but we end up just sending out money
Yeah.
to people that are not within our networks in our society and our country. And I think it's something that we have to look at as a bigger picture and say, we can work together in the same space, but not doing the same thing. And so that's one of the first points. But if we're to take it from a direct farming perspective, I think one thing that is very crucial, and we need to understand that farming is a business.
It
And
is.
every business normally has a time of investment and a time to reap and a time to harvest. And a lot of times people think that they will make money in their first year. And look at the numbers, and someone will do a hectare of onions and they will hold whatever they've received and think they've made money, but they forget the time they've spent, or the amount of money they spent on the irrigation equipment. They forget the amount of time they've spent, because the business also has to look after you. So you can't say that this business is making money if you're unable to draw a salary from it. And to get to that point, it takes time. And I must honestly say, for our journey to get to the point when things really started making sense, maybe 5 years later, and there was just years of just plowing in, plowing in, plowing in, and also investing in people. So the last point I'd like to say to that is, especially for those that haven't come back yet and are trying to invest into farming back at home, the biggest thing that you invest in above the actual farm itself is the person that's looking after the farm. And that person must earn really well, because you need their trust. I think one thing that we fail to do is we want to reap as much benefit from a distance when we're expecting somebody to be on the ground the whole time. That person on the ground, their responsibility is to build your asset, and they need to be rewarded for that. So if you look after that person, your asset will grow to the point where it's sufficient to look after you. And that'll be the right time. Then you can either decide that you want to come home, or you can just enjoy your investment that is working well for you in Zimbabwe.
Time goes so fast. 30 minutes is gone. I see these people who are following, including some also, some farmers here. I've got Ndaka, Dr. Hungwe, who is, she's a friend of mine, and she follows the program quite a lot. And she also is doing quite a bit at her farm. It's got Mimi Mtesha, and they've got Lillian Magaya and Sheila Masose. Karen, you went to school with Karen, and yeah. All these people following us. Thank you so much. I'll try and show some pictures. We saw that video you did. I put a couple of other pictures that I had captured here, and I hope I will be able to get them. Let me just see if I can show a few pictures, like a picture of your dad, for instance. It's very important. Slides. Let's see if I can get them. I don't think I can. I'm having problems getting this, but anyway, thank you so much, Aaron, and thank you everybody for following us, and we wish you the best of luck. Oh, before I forget, Aaron played rugby. He was a professional rugby player and is an avid golfer. How is that coming up? Before I sign out, tell me a little bit how is it coming up with your golf?
So the route is, to be a good business person, you have to be an average golfer. So I would like to believe my business is going well because I am very average.
Well, that's why I say ordinary people doing extraordinary stuff. And I'm glad you're still playing golf. You're not playing rugby much anymore because you're older now. But you know what? You have to weigh that, balance that between work and life. It's important for you to stay healthy and keep doing what you're doing. And would like to encourage other young people to, hey, it can be done. Look at you. I mean, you would never have been, you probably would have a shop somewhere doing your little spa thing like your father did, but the world is big. Rise and shine. And thank you so much, Aaron, for coming today,
Thank
and
you so
everybody
much.
for following us. This is fantastic. Would like to encourage you. Well done. Ordinary people doing extraordinary stuff. Thank you, everybody, for following us. Have a fantastic evening, lovely evening. Sangwadzi Spiwe Kachidza Mapfumo. I'll see you next Saturday. Bye.